So a warm welcome to you all tonight. For those of you who are tuning in live, please say hello if you'd like. And also a warm welcome to anyone who's tuning in after tonight. So it's great that we're able to post these after we record them. And so tonight's the last night in the series exploring Buddhist ritual. And I've really been enjoying the different aspects we've been exploring. So the first week, we talked about why ritual, what's the point of ritual? And some of the points we brought out was this, I guess, a human need for meaning or to gather together for significant events, such as when somebody dies. But we looked at, and then the need for people to understand why they would do ritual. And we looked at the purpose of Buddhist ritual, which might be quite obscure to people not familiar with it. But essentially, Buddhist ritual supports us in moving towards our ideal of transforming ourselves, realizing our potential to move towards enlightenment. And in terms of human need, we just add in too that the Buddha, after he gained enlightenment, said that there's a human need to revere and look up to something. And he himself, even though he's enlightened, made a reverence and devotion to the Dharma or the truth. So those are some of the areas of why ritual. We looked at also some definitions of ritual, such as that it's a shared action, a shared action that expresses something. So expresses common striving and rooted in shared ideals. And that very much, to me, speaks to what Buddhist ritual is about. Then the following week, we looked at different aspects of the shrine behind us, different dimensions of devotion, and how Buddhist ritual in a lot of ways helps us be wholehearted. So bringing in all our senses, bringing in bodily actions such as bowing to the shrine, symbolism of the Buddha, the bringing in of sensitizing ourselves to something beautiful, such as having flowers or candles. And then in the next week, we looked at mantra and the inner vibrational effect of mantra and the whole effect of repeating a sound. And that kind of magic element that maybe in different contexts could be associated with a magic spell or something. But again, in Buddhist ritual, it's for a specific purpose. These sounds resonate with qualities of enlightenment. And again, it's another way of us being wholehearted, bringing the whole of ourselves in, our body, in this case, the speech and the mind. And this week we're culminating with what's known as the Sevenfold Puja, which is the common practice, certainly within Triratna, a common unifying devotional practice. Up until now, we've been doing what's known as the Threefold Puja, so a puja in 3 parts. That has been written in English, and it focuses very much on the Buddha as our ideal of enlightenment, and it's quite simple and beautiful in its own way. Now, the Sevenfold Puja goes back to Buddhist tradition that came about in India. It is a puja of 7 parts, and each part is supposed to evoke a different mood. And the words that we use in our Sevenfold Puja are derived from what's known as a world religion classic, the Bodhicharya Tara, which literally means the career of the bodhisattva. So a bodhisattva is a being human or more symbolic that strives for enlightenment for the sake and benefit of all beings. So there's this ideal that runs throughout the puja of our common striving to benefit all beings through moving towards enlightenment. So it's very much a part of that puja. And it was written in the 7th century by a monk called Shantideva, and it's very much rooted in Indian culture and tradition in some way. So some of the words may sound a bit stilted or a bit foreign or even flowery, but it's important to understand this context of this great religious text that it's based on. And we could describe the Sevenfold Puja, I mean, one way of describing its different moods, as climbing a mountain. So you see a mountain in the distance and you're kind of awed by its majesty and beauty. And the puja starts with this section called worship. And we're just filled with wonder at this achievement of enlightenment. And we're expressing, again, this expression and ritual, our gratitude and respect and devotion for all those who have gained enlightenment, that are shining examples for us. And again, we bring in all the senses. There are flowers, there's images of food and drink and incense and lights, and it goes back to what we explored in the second week of the Indian hospitality of inviting a guest into their homes. We bring that into the shrine with offering bowls representing different things one would offer a guest. And this is very much evoked in this first reverence section. And it moves into, again, maybe starting to get ready to move up that mountain, again with more gratitude and respect towards those who have, in the salutation section. Following the worship section, there will be a mantra, and that's where we usually make offerings. And then we move on to the heart of the puja. So how do we transform and realize our ideals of moving towards Buddhahood or enlightenment? And that's reciting the refuges and precepts. And we did that last week. And as I said last week, this is the core practice that's been practiced probably well over 2,000 or more years by Buddhists through time and in all different cultures and traditions today. And it essentially, some of it is in the Buddha's language, but essentially we're revering the Buddha as our ideal. We're revering his teachings and the truth as the only refuge from suffering in the human experience. And then we're also rejoicing and cherishing the community of the Buddha's followers, the Sangha, so the 3 jewels. And as we said, that's what us order members in Triratna wear on our cases. It's what Triratna means, 3 jewels. So it's a very core. So this is the core of the puja. And then the next mood is confession. So, you know, we're connecting with the core of being a Buddhist. But then confession, we're looking at what gets in the way and just honestly facing into that very openly. And that's followed by a rejoicing section. So it's almost like 2 wings of a bird. So we acknowledge what holds us back, but we also then balance that with rejoicing in gains we and others have made the fact that there is the Dharma and the Buddha in the world. So they very much go together. Following that is entreaty and supplication, where we're asking, we're asking these qualities of enlightenment to stay in the world, and we're asking for a teaching. And following that, Viryanaga will give a teaching, will read a teaching from the Dhammapada. The puja, the last section of the puja is transference of merits. So we've done all this practice around transformation together with people who share our ideals. But then because the whole theme is about benefiting all beings, we don't keep the gain for ourselves. We imagine we're sending that out to the world. So that's a very important aspect of this practice. And then the absolute ending is a series of mantras, again coming back to enlightenment qualities. So it's almost like we've climbed to the summit of the mountain, and we're just resounding with these enlightenment qualities and mantra. And it ends with 3 shantis, which means peace. And I guess that's when we go silent, and there's this deep peace and fulfillment of what it might be to be enlightened. And so that's quite a nutshell, quite a whistle tour of the Sevenfold Puja. Before I turn to Viryanaga, who's here, we have a bit of discussion. I'll just tell you 1 or 2 things about the puja. 1 or 2 tips is not to take the words too literally. They're very poetic. And I can't remember the other. Let me turn over to Viryanaga. My sense, Viryanaga, is that you have quite a connection with the Sevenfold Puja in knowing you over the years.
Oh, thanks. It's a really nice question to ask. Yeah. I do, yes, I do. I mean, it's interesting, I never used to, though. It's definitely something that's evolved. It's not something that was kind of there right from the beginning. In fact, I found it incredibly boring and tedious and long-winded in a way. But I recognised, or rather I witnessed my sort of people I respected valuing it, and I wanted to understand why, so I sort of threw myself into many of them until I kind of came to a understanding of it in a way. And I guess what really helped me was thinking of it as a drama. I really like what you were saying about the mountain, because that's interesting, that's the same image I use, or I imagine it's like approaching the mountain in the foothills and climbing the summit. I was very much thinking of it as, well, it's a kind of, it's a piece of drama, and I sort of enact that drama like I was performing a piece of art or something, or watching a theatre performance, and kind of allowing myself to be emotionally moved by that kind of drama unfolding. I mean, in a certain way, it's the drama of reality, isn't it? The drama of our lives unfolding in a certain way, but it's sort of enacting that.
Yes, I mean, I can resonate with a lot of what you say, because I really struggled with this Sevenfold Puja for but I think it's partly, I think I mentioned my Catholic conditioning and, reciting words when I was a teenager that didn't really mean much to me, so there was a lot of call and repeat. So, and I'm also quite picky about words, so they weren't words I particularly liked. And yet I greatly respect Shantideva, the Bodhicharvatara. I might have, if it was down to me, I might have chosen different words, and yet the teacher who I respect so much chose this. And that's why I said, caveat to myself as well, is don't be so literal and hung up on the words, because there's so much beyond the words that it's pointing to. My other hang-up was that we had the Buddha in the Threefold Puja, the historical Buddha. In the Sevenfold Puja, we go to Buddhas. plural. We go to protectors.
Mm.
And we're entering a very different Buddhist tradition. And it took me a while to, you know, my connection with the historical Buddha, I felt like, where's the Buddha?
Mm.
But slowly I began to recognize, well, that we're talking about thousands of years of tradition where these enlightenment qualities, or you would even say Buddha principle, started taking on a life of their own. And this is very rich and mythical and very, very inspiring if you open up to it.
It's very grand, isn't it?
Yes, very grand. Well, Mahayana, from the Mahayana school.
I'd never that's a very good, astute observation. I'd never actually noticed that.
Oh, it used to bug me. Like, who are these protectors, you know?
Because it does feel a bit like, there's all these people, isn't it? And some of the words are like bowing down in front of the protectors, isn't it?
That's right. I was like, what happened to the Buddha? Who are these protectors? You know, so it's like, I couldn't relate to it. So that's why and I can imagine someone coming across the Sevenfold Puja with that kind of language would be a bit mystified as well, or a bit having a hard time finding a way in.
What's interesting is that the Sevenfold Puja is also the ritual that people are most likely to encounter at a Buddhist centre.
That's right.
It's the one we do most frequently.
It is.
And if you go to a festival day, like I've got some festival days coming up, that would be the ritual we're doing there as well.
Exactly.
So it's sort of like your first taste usually.
That's right.
And
if people don't run a mile, we haven't completely, because it's quite a stretch for people who haven't come across any Buddhist ritual. And they're in a class and we don't, we're just straight in, or a festival day. Some people take to it like ducks to water, but not many.
I mean, I've always found people to be respectful, like new people.
Yes.
They're always respectful and interested, but then there's that leap of actually participating and getting something from it. I think takes much more work, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, I guess one of the other ways is you treating it as a sort of visual exercise, because one can go through the motions in a way and ring the bell, well, say the words and recite after and do the mantra and stuff. But actually, like really putting your kind of energy into the visuals of it and sort of imaginatively opening up, I've also found very helpful.
Absolutely.
Particularly on retreat, where you've done a big ritual every night and it's like day 10 and you're a bit bored of it. You can start to really let your mind and imagination expand and find kind of. Well, I think you do have to make it your own, don't you? Like you say, you can find your own way, even though the words are the same.
Yes.
You can find your own way in with the imagery or the emotional elements or the associations or that sort of.
Yeah, it's very. I think I said in one of the evenings that gradually I realised it's a two-way street with rituals, that I have to bring something to it as well, and not just wait to be inspired by something, which is the way I have approached a number of things in the past. And particularly the opening section where we're offering these flowers. It starts out by offering these flowers, Mandarva, blue lotus, and jasmine. I try to imagine beautiful flowers or things I've seen that day, just kind of make it. And as soon as you hear that word Mandarva, which is an otherworldly flower, apparently it's the size of a cartwheel and it's orange and yellow and it's up in the sky somewhere, and but you're in a different realm. You're not in our everyday mundane realm. And how do I bring my own connection with magic and beauty into that? So and some people over the years have written their own pujas. So there's some with roses or English flowers in them, or there's no reason why we can't bring in our own personal touch to it.
Because I guess there's a lot of Indian kind of imagery there. It would be
That's
very familiar if you were an Indian in a way.
That's
right. Culture and those things would be as familiar as English roses or whatever, daffodils and things.
And there's offerings, the words say offerings of food, hard and soft, which always sounded a bit strange to me. It's very, but it is very much part of that, what you would offer to a guest, and the way Indians would describe food, I guess at the time of Shantideva. But I suppose it's bringing in, really welcoming, wanting to offer something to the Buddha as our guest, or that we're welcoming in pleasing kinds of liquids to drink. It's very, I try to imagine something really refreshing, something, I really want to welcome something in, or someone very important.
There is a sort of sense of appreciation, isn't there, that runs throughout.
Yes.
Sort of different levels. Like it's that immediate, right from the start. You're like, wow, there's this Buddha, this mountain, effectively. This, this ideal, this principle, this person. And then it's sort of like as you go through and maybe get, go through the drama, and the drama is of a person embarking on that spiritual journey. Then there's all this appreciation of, well, the rejoicings in merits and so on.
Yes.
Respecting the what do you call it, like the saviors or the
the
protectors.
The protectors. There's also the princes of the sages. I just think, who are these princes of sages? But it's just an expression for, obviously, there's so many great sages, Buddhist sages, who have gone before that are just so inspiring, and obviously the Buddha is first and foremost. In the refuges and precepts, we get back to the Buddha, which is, I feel really important. In a way, it brings all three major schools of Buddhism into this puja. So we get back to the Theravada, the Buddha in the refuges and precepts.
I mean, just while you're talking, it's just sort of reminding me of one of the basic principles of Buddhism, of the sort of interdependence, or what we call pratisha, the kind of we're not in it on our own.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? We, even though we might be, well, maybe we're a very capable and confident practitioner, maybe we don't feel that, but even if we are, we're not doing it on our own. There's all this, as you say, thousands of years of history and great sages, and there's the whole, not only is there the Buddha, there's this whole lineage as well, and that's all supporting us.
And there's a whole cosmos, it starts coming in with the Mandarava flower, but there's a whole, it's the enlightenment energies that's part of the truth of reality, and that's all coming in weird and wonderful ways as well. We're kind of in a different plane, we're kind of, and something does happen, I find. And I'm so grateful for all the different contexts in which I've done the Sevenfold Puja, with different groups of people over the years in different contexts. And the most memorable is when our teacher Sankaracharya led one. And I've never heard it led like that. I mean, he chose these words, he's just so completely behind it, So there, again, it's something about what we all bring to it that really, is just the more important than the words. It's something much more beyond it. But speaking of words, I'll just say one word I've struggled with and other people do, is that word evil in the confession section. I think because of my conditioning as a Catholic, it just has unhelpful connotations, but I always think of it as, just being unmindful, and, it's about evil in everyday experience. I'm just thinking, it just seems so unhelpful to me using that word evil for everyday experience, except things just build up, don't they? And can have evil results, can have really, really strongly negative results. And one teacher recently said he didn't like the word evil either, but the word in Buddhism, the word that Shantideva uses is papa, which is it's a very, very strong word, and it's much stronger than harm. So we don't know the harm that we're doing. So I just turn off and just try to connect with things I've done that are unskillful.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? Because to really see the effect of our habits, from a sort of enlightened or at least a very advanced perspective, they probably would seem a bit horrifying.
Yes, that's right.
So maybe that word is appropriate, but for us, I mean, speaking personally, day to day, I'm fairly ignorant about the harm I'm causing myself with my habits and thoughts in a way. But I imagine actually, if I was a bit more developed, they might seem more strong in a way.
Yeah, and it brings in that same section, brings on terrified of suffering. And again, that brings up, my experience of, I didn't have a particularly good experience. I'm sure there are good experiences of Catholicism, but my experience was that there was a lot of infusion of fear in people to get them. And so when, I hear the word terrified, I'm it's raising conditioning, but our teacher would say we're kind of terrified of that when we act unskillfully, it's going to have some consequences that's worth fearing. It's more about the consequences rather than you being punished from without or something like that. It's all our doing.
It's funny, that section, it does read a bit like that, doesn't it? Because
Yes.
it's sort of like these. Is it something like the conquerors or the protectors? And then
Yes.
you're going to revere them.
I pay salutation again and again. I really have to work with it. Yeah. But again, it's okay.
Feel it's coming from them, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Of course, it's not. It's you realizing that you don't want to suffer anymore.
Yes.
You're terrified of your own suffering.
And it's me being too literal. I think literalism, our teacher said, is one of the biggest holding someone back in the spiritual life, is not be so literal. And that's what I've had to work with, particularly with this puja. It's been very helpful because before I knew it, so much more that has been so beautiful and beneficial has come in once I let go of my literal reading of things.
I mean, I'm sure it's very reassuring to people, that, well, you and I both had a bit of a process with it. I'm sure, I imagine people sort of look at us and think maybe we've been into it for ages, but it's often not the case, is it, with Buddhist practitioners? There has been some sort of work to develop a practice. I mean, don't get me wrong, some people definitely do really go for a ritual straight away and don't seem to have a sort of have to get over anything for it. But it does seem to be the norm, in a way, to do a bit of work in order to get the benefit of practice. I guess a bit like anything, like one has to work at a meditation practice to really get the benefits of it as well, and communication and sangha and all these other.
It's like an acquired taste. It's been described, a bit like operas, or but worth hanging in there for most people who like opera.
I would definitely encourage people to give it a go, though. It's definitely, for me, it has become one of the most valuable practices, and I now have such a strong association of devotion with it. I sort of couldn't imagine my spiritual life without it, in a way. So I'm really pleased I put in the hard yards early on. And did my homework, found an association, worked with the imagery, and kind of came into relation with it. Now I find myself leading them. As well, which is a whole other thing as well.
And I find myself, when I'm on a solitary retreat, I will do the Sevenfold Puja every night, and I find it very meaningful. I think there's a kickback from call and repeat that just brings me back to my old conditioning. But I can sometimes people just sit and meditate and listen to the words, and I think we will have to see what works for us.
And maybe just, if you are getting into ritual for the first time, I mean, people can just listen, can't they?
Yes, that's
and just let them see what happens, see what one's response is. It's absolutely fine.
And I was just thinking, going back to what we were talking about last week, and with mantra or collective practice, it's really good to sit in quiet after a puja, especially because we're going to end with closing mantras, and just absorb that rich silence that builds up. So, just wanted to take this opportunity to say that we'll end with the shantis, the peace, but let that dissolve into some silence before we ring the bell and end the session. So it's a different way of being, for those who aren't familiar with ritual,
Often the effects are sort of after, aren't they?
That's right.
You've done the active part, and then
exactly
that space is like the receptive one.
Yes.
Good. Maybe I'll just have a look at the chat room, see who's around, and then if there's any questions. Oh, we've got Pam joining us. So thanks,
Lovely.
Pam.
Hi, Pam.
Lovely to have you here. Yeah. I don't think there's any questions or other comments, so that's fine.
Yeah.
So should we proceed to the next part?
Yes, let's proceed to the next part.
So before we do meditation, and Amarapuspa is going to lead the Sevenfold Puja after that.
Which will be a bit later, probably they'll go a bit longer than previous classes.
Yeah.
Probably not by much.
Great. So before we do that, I just want to do our Dharma appeal. And I want to do two things really. We always do an appeal for donations, but I want to firstly I want to thank our regular givers. So, it's near the beginning of the month and we've already got £1,000, £1,063. And that is almost entirely due to our regular givers. These are people that decided that they want to give monthly to the Brixton Buddhist community. So, we've got this £2,000 a month target and they get us halfway every month. But we still have to raise the other half through one-off donations and so on. And we do a lot at Brixton, a lot of activities, and we're really starting to wind up again now. It's sort of, despite the potential risks of lockdown, we're definitely making sure we put on classes and events both online and actually very soon in-person public classes as well. So obviously in a COVID secure, safe way. We've got the Monday class, we've got a new Wednesday night Dharma night starting soon, in a couple of weeks' time. A couple of festivals coming up where we'll be doing rituals, Sevenfold Pujas like this, where we've got some people becoming mitras. They're going to make, basically declare that they want to be Buddhist and undertake a short ceremony to become what we call a mitra or friend. So we've got a Padmasambhava of the Day ritual and also a Sangha Day ritual in November as well. And then we've got courses, so Maitranara and Sagrasura are leading the journey and the guide at the moment, which I hear is going very well. And we've got another course starting to shape up towards the end of the year as well. So, there's a few other bits and pieces as well, study groups and study days and other things like that. So there's a whole variety of things that we're putting on, and we put all of that on for free. So we don't charge for any of our events, classes. People can book on courses for free as well. We do everything for free. But that, of course, means that we are dependent on people's generosity. So, people, back in the day when we had a physical class, we would have a bowl that people could put money on, or a card reader that people could give some money to on their way out. That, of course, is no longer an option for us at the moment. So if you have been valuing the stuff that we're putting out there, either online or whether you're able to join a course or whatever, just ask if you could give. I know that some people are in financial difficulty at the moment, and I know that some of my friends are going through redundancy. So of course, I wouldn't ask you to give if you can't afford it. But if you're one of those people that has a bit more money at the moment, your job is okay, and you're not going out and eating out or whatever else, and you've got a bit of money at the moment, well, we'd ask maybe if the Dharma has helped you, if meditation has helped you in any way, whether you would support, or in a way back there being more meditation, more Dharma in the world by making a contribution to our appeal. And Jack will put a donation link in the chat box, and you just go along there. You can either choose to make a single gift or a monthly donation. Of course, monthly donations are really appreciated, but anything would be really, really positive. I'm really hopeful we can get to that £2,000 at the end of this month. That would just help us really unfold these next sort of series of events and activities that we're trying to all get together. It's a bit, it's always a bit of a stretch for us because we're a bit under-resourced. But that would be go a long way to helping us do that. Good. So we change mode now. So we're just going to reorganise ourselves so we can start a more meditative and ritual element. Okay, great. And what we'll do to start with is we'll salute the shrine, which you've been doing in the previous weeks. So this is just paying our respect to the Buddha, or the ideal, the Dharma, or the path, and the Sangha, or the spiritual community. And that's just done in call and response. And then I'll lead a short meditation. I'm going to lead a sort of guided reflection this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trying to bring us into a kind of trying to bring us into a bit of a reverential or devotional space, with a sort of variation of what we'd call a recollection of the Buddha, or Buddhana Smriti. So I'm going to try to bring to mind what it might be like to meet somebody like the Buddha, or indeed, if you're not a Buddhist, another teacher or person that you respect. So just to start to get us in that reverential mood, hopefully, and then I'll hand over to Amarapuspa to lead the ritual tonight. So let's salute the shrine, and we'll just do the sitting down this time. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Dharmaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Namah.
Namo Namah.
Om.
Om.
Ah.
Ah.
Om.
Om.
Okay, so with meditation, just get yourself comfortable. You don't need to sit on the floor. You don't need any special arrangement. You can just, wherever you're sitting, just try to sit yourself upright, and just also at the same time, just try to soften your body a little. So you want a nice, if you can, a nice straight back, but the rest of your body you just want relaxed. So your shoulders, your belly, particularly your face, your muscles around the eyes, and your jaw. So when you bring awareness to those areas, you may notice that there's more tension there than you thought. Or you can just try to explicitly sort of relax that, or you could just imagine it softening. Just the area softening. And then you can just try to pick up your breath. And by pick up, I just mean notice the sensations. And just rest your awareness somewhere you can feel the breath strongly. So perhaps your mouth or nose, or the diaphragm, or your chest. Just rest your awareness in one of those areas. And just allow the breath to just flow into and out of your body. You don't need to manage the breath, just the body knows how to breathe. Just let yourself breathe. Almost as if you were just an observer. You can just stay on the breath just for a moment or so, a couple of minutes. Just letting our energy settle. If you find your mind wanders or you're feeling a bit frothy, you can just keep coming back to the sensation. You might find that sensation opens up for you, becomes a bigger part of your experience. You may also notice your body softening somewhat. whatever's going on in your mind, just see if you can just let go of it a little more. So let those energies settle. Let the mind quieten down. So I'm just going to lead us on a little imaginary journey, an imaginary reflection. It's a bit like a story. And in this reflection, just using your mind to imagine or kind of image kind of things that I'm suggesting, and just see what effect, emotional response or sensations that elicits in your body. So particularly good to rest one's awareness around the heart or chest area. Again, just as an observer, almost being aware of what our responses are to these reflections. So first of all, I'd like you to imagine that you're at home. You're in your home. And maybe it's early evening. And you've made plans tonight to go somewhere to do a ritual. And you've decided to attend this ritual because there's somebody there that you want to meet. So you could imagine that this person is either somebody, a teacher that you respect a great deal, that you want to attend this class, or you could also, if you're a Buddhist, imagine that you are indeed going to meet the Buddha. Just noticing how you feel, perhaps a sense of anticipation. Perhaps you don't know if this person knows you or not, but you want to go meet them. Perhaps you've benefited from what they've taught you in your life. Perhaps you even want to go and show a sense of appreciation to them. Perhaps you have prepared a gift. So just seeing how you feel about that. And then you get yourself ready and you leave your house. And you make your way to where you're going, where you're meeting this person, where this event is happening. Perhaps the journey is fairly lengthy. Perhaps it requires a bit of hard work on your part to navigate to this place, to meet this person. Nevertheless, you make the journey. And then you arrive. And you firstly take in the place that you're arriving to. Maybe it's a place that you know, or maybe a place that you've never been before. It may be elaborate or it may be simple. But just wherever that place is for you, just trying to imagine that you're there outside, perhaps holding your gift, aware that the person that has given you so much is waiting inside. Just seeing how you feel as you enter that door. And you make your way through the reception room. Perhaps there are other people there as well. You make your way through. You open the door to a shrine room filled with people sat around this teacher. You can see that people are offering things to the teacher, presenting their gifts. So you too approach the teacher. And this teacher, perhaps the Buddha, is in front of you speaking to another. When that person is finished, he looks at you, or they look at you. Just seeing how you feel. In that moment, it feels as though the person, the teacher, the Buddha himself perhaps, really sees you. Nothing is said, but there is an understanding between you. Perhaps you offer a gift that is received with appreciation. And you go and sit yourself down with the other people in front of this person that you respect. This person that has given you so much. And then we can just let that image go. Just let that image dissolve of you and the teacher. Just see where we are, see if we feel any sense of appreciation or gratitude. And then when we're ready, we can just bring this short reflection to a close.
The Sevenfold Puja. Firstly, worship. With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
I pay honor to the princes of the sages.
I pay honor to the princes of the sages.
So worthy of veneration.
So worthy of veneration.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
Sweet and penetrating.
Sweet and penetrating.
I make them offerings of food, hard and soft.
I make them offerings of food, hard and soft.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
Festooned with golden lotus.
Festooned with golden lotus.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya
Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni 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 Shakyamuni Swaha. Salutation. As many atoms as there are,
as many atoms as there are,
in the 1,000 million worlds,
in the 1,000 million worlds,
so many times I make reverent salutation
so many times I make reverent salutation
to all the Buddhas of the 3 eras,
to all the Buddhas of the 3 eras,
to the Sadharma,
to the Siddharma,
and to the excellent community.
and to the excellent community.
I pay homage to all the shrines
I pay homage to all the shrines
and places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
and places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
I make profound obeisance to the teachers
I make profound obeisance to the teachers
and those to whom respectful salutation is due.
and those to whom respectful salutation is due.
Going for refuge. This very day,
This very day,
I go for my refuge,
I go for my refuge
to the powerful protectors,
to the powerful protectors,
whose purpose is to guard the universe,
whose purpose is to guard the universe,
the mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
the mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge
in the Dharma they have ascertained,
in the Dharma they have ascertained,
which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas,
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas,
I take my refuge.
I take my refuge.
Namo tassa
Namo tassa
bhagavato arahato
bhagavato arahato
samma sambuddhassa.
samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa
Namo tassa
bhagavato arahato
bhagavato arahato
samma sambuddhassa.
samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa
Namo tassa
bhagavato arahato
bhagavato arahato
samma sambuddhassa.
samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami,
Buddhang saranang gacchami,
dhammang saranang gacchami,
dhammang saranang saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Tatyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Tatyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Tatyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Tatyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Tatyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Tatyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Panatipata.
Panatipata.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadam.
Sikkhapadam.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Adinadana.
Adinadana.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadam.
Sikkhapadam.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Kamesu.
Kamesu.
Michachara.
Mishachara.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadam.
Sikkhapadam.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Musavada.
Musavada.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadam.
Sikkhapadam.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Suramerya.
Suramerya.
Majja.
Majja.
Hamadatana.
Hamadatana.
Veramani.
Veramani.
Sikkhapadam.
Sikkhapadam.
Samadhiyami.
Samadhiyami.
Sadhu.
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 With deeds of loving kindness,
With deeds of loving kindness,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With open-handed generosity,
With open-handed generosity,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With stillness,
With stillness,
simplicity,
simplicity,
and contentment,
and contentment,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With truthful communication,
With truthful communication,
I purify my speech.
I purify my speech.
With mindfulness clear and radiant,
With mindfulness clear and radiant,
I purify my mind.
I purify my mind.
Confession of faults. The evil that I have heaped up
The evil that I have heaped up
through my ignorance and foolishness.
through my ignorance and foolishness.
Evil in the world of everyday experience,
Evil in the world of everyday experience,
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
All that I acknowledge to the protectors,
All that I acknowledge to the protectors,
standing before them,
standing before them,
with hands raised in reverence,
with hands raised in reverence,
and terrified of suffering,
and terrified of suffering.
I pay salutations again and again.
I pay salutations again and again.
May the leaders receive this kindly.
May the leaders receive this kindly,
just as it is with its many faults.
just as it is with its many faults.
What is not good, O protectors,
What is not good, O protectors,
I shall not do again.
I shall not do again.
Rejoicing in merit. I rejoice with delight
I rejoice in delight
in the good done by all beings,
in the good done by all beings,
through which they obtain rest,
Through which they obtain rest,
with the end of suffering.
with the end of suffering.
May those who have suffered be happy.
May those who have suffered be happy.
I rejoice in the release of beings,
I rejoice in the release of beings,
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva
I rejoice
In the nature of the Bodhisattva
and the Buddha,
and the Buddha,
who are protectors.
who
who
are
are protectors.
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment
I
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment
and the teachings,
and the teachings,
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings,
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings,
and are the abode of welfare of all beings.
and are the abode of welfare of all beings.
Entreaty and supplication. Saluting them with folded hands,
Saluting them with folded hands,
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma
for those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
for those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
With hands folded in reverence,
With hands folded in reverence,
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter Nirvana.
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter Nirvana.
May they remain here for endless ages,
May they remain here for endless ages,
so that life in this world does not grow dark.
so that life in this world does not grow dark. This indeed is the way. There is no other that leads to purity of vision. Entering upon the way, this way is the bewilderment of Mara. Following this way, you will make an end of suffering. This indeed is the way proclaimed by me ever since I knew how to draw out the darts of craving. By you must the zealous effort be made. The Buddhas or enlightened ones are the only proclaimers of the way. Those who are practitioners, absorbed in higher meditative states, eventually win release from the bondage of Mara. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with insight, one becomes wary of suffering. This is the way to purity. All conditioned things are painful. When one sees this with insight, one becomes weary of suffering. This is the way to purity. All things whatsoever are devoid of unchanging selfhood. When one sees this with insight, one becomes weary of suffering. This is the way to purity. One who does not make use of their opportunities, who, though young and strong, is lazy, weak in aspiration, and inactive. Such a lazy person does not find the way to insight. guarded in speech, as well as controlled in mind. Let one do no ethically unskillful thing with the body. Purifying these three avenues of action, let them attain the way made known by the sages. From application arises the spiritually great. From the lack of application, the spiritually great wanes. Having known these two avenues of increase or decrease of the great, let them so establish in themselves that the great may flourish.
Transfers to merit and self-surrender. May the merit gained in my acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. My personality throughout my existences. My possessions. And my merit in all three ways. I give up without regard to myself. For the benefit of all beings. Just as the earth and other elements. Are serviceable in many ways. To the infinite number of beings. Inhabiting limitless space. So may I become. That which maintains all beings. Situated throughout space. So long as all have not attained. To peace. Om Mani Padme Hum.
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 Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Vajrapani Hum.
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 Om Tare Ture Swaha.
Om Tare Swaha.
Om Tare Ture Swaha.
Om Tare Swaha.
Om Tare Ture Swaha.
Om Tare Swaha.
Om Amideva Hri.
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 Om Mani Mani.
Om Muni Muni.
Mahamani.
Mahamuni.
Shakyamani.
Shakyamuni.
Swaha.
Swaha.
Om Mani Mani.
Om Muni Muni.
Mahamuni,
Mahamuni.
Shakyamuni,
Shakyamuni.
Swaha,
Swaha.
Om Mani Mani,
Om Muni Muni.
Mahamuni,
Mahamuni.
Shakyamuni,
Shakyamuni.
Swaha,
Swaha.
Om Ahom,
Om Ahom.
Vajraguru Padma,
Vajraguru Padma.
Sri Hom,
Sri Om.
Om Ahom,
Om Ahom.
Vajraguru Padma,
Vajraguru Padma.
Sri Hom,
Sri Om.
Om Ahom,
Om Ahom.
Vajraguru Padma,
Vajraguru Padma.
Sri Hom,
Sri Om.
Gate Gate,
Gate Gate.
Pargate,
Paragate.
Parasamgate,
Parasamgate.
Bodhisvaha,
Bodhisvaha.
Gate Gate,
Gate Gate.
Pargate,
Paragate.
Parasamgate,
Parasamgate.
Bodhisvaha,
Bodhisvaha.
Gate Gate,
Gate Gate.
Pargate,
Paragate.
Parasamgate,
Parasamgate.
Bodhisvaha,
Bodhisvaha.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
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 Shanti.